Hello and welcome to a Pursuit of Perfect Systems vlog video. In this video I'm going to be talking you through a Dirac live setup. Now we currently have the Chord Electronics SPM 1050 Mark II stereo power amplifier in for review, and for every amplifier we get in for review we run a full Dirac live measurement setup. Now the reason we do this is because different amplifiers of different power are going to have a different gain structure to each other. So as we turn the volume up on the preamp, obviously we get a different volume out of the speakers. Now that doesn't work for subwoofer integration. So what we do for every amplifier, we run a full set of measurements, use a set target curve, and this way we not only do we get perfect integration with the subwoofers, but we get an even playing field for every single amplifier that we test, volume and frequency. So purely we are hearing the amplifier sound. Now we're in the cinema room, it's obviously very dark. I'm not sure how well I'm coming out in terms of clarity. You can see me, that's probably doing you a favour, but obviously we've got a lot of acoustic treatment in this room to make the room as neutral as possible. But Dirac Live is the icing on the cake. It's absolutely outstanding. It makes a huge difference, and I figured it might be a scary thing for some people that might be unsure what to do and how to use it. So I figured I would run through a basic setup, or run through the setup procedure with yourself so you can see what I'm doing. It's actually very simple and very easy. And the results are, well, the results are literally outstanding. I'm planning to do a Dirac Live test video where I can actually give you a live recorded demonstration of this system with Dirac Live on and Dirac Live off, and it will be night and day, literally night and day difference. In terms of Dirac Live, now I actually use this within the dedicated audio PC music source, with the music server. So I literally run Dirac Live software only. Now you can buy mini DSP boxes, or Arcam obviously sell you units now with Dirac built in. Now the actual setup, measurement procedure and everything is going to be the same for all of them. It's even going to look pretty much identical, if not the same. So as we work through the process, it will be the same process within this as to all of them. But for me, I feel you want DSP done as early in the chain as possible. So doing it in the music source, where basically the signal starts, makes perfect sense. Now that dedicated audio PC has got an i7 processor in it. It's also got huge amounts of RAM and stuff. So it's got masses of power in order to do like the on the fly computations, etc., that are needed to be done within the Dirac software. So yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, we're just going to look at an essential piece of kit for Dirac Live. That is the UMIK1 USB measurement microphone. So this is the box it comes in, really hardware in, high quality case. Comes with a USB cable, pretty standard, microphone end, computer end, a little mini tripod which I don't use, actual dedicated proper tripod holder for the microphone which I do use, and the actual UMIK1 itself. Now what is so special about the UMIK1? Well, not a lot really, to be honest. It's an omnidirectional microphone, which means it's going to pick up signal from all directions. It's USB powered, and it's got a built-in preamplifier. That's really the big thing, and the real reason people use this. This is literally a small, neat, easy to use, all-in-one perfect solution for this job. And I think this costs around the £100 mark, which might seem like a lot of money really, but considering this is going to last you a lifetime of using software like Dirac or other softwares like RU for room measurements, this is an invaluable tool. And for what I'm doing, okay, then this is the Dirac Live calibration tool. Basically this is the software you use to set the system up. I'm guessing this via a mini DSP system or solution. I'm sure this would be via a laptop. I say this is just software running on the audio PC which we're using to run Dirac Live anyway. I apologise for the poor quality video. The audio PC I use is headless. That means there's no monitor. I don't even have a keyboard or a mouse plugged into it. So I'm literally having to use a very old school LCD TV when I want to do anything like this, and I plug it in obviously via the straight off the motherboard. So you're literally seeing kind of the poor quality visuals that I get from the TV, but to be honest, it does the job. So this is our original, or our initial sort of setup system. So I'm using obviously stereo, Dirac Live stereo. Here This is you know, basically the output, which obviously is via my UMIK MC3 plus USB. That's the output. Now this is something to pay attention to here, sample rate. So my DAC basically works up to 96 kilohertz. There's no point creating filters for any higher resolution than that. So if you're running a DAC that does up to 192, then make sure you click on those as well. So when you play back files at this size, basically Dirac Live will be enabled as well. So this is all pretty simple. The next page is our microphone. So we've got the UMIK1 obviously plugged in via USB straight into the motherboard. Now xdzmic.cal here, this is just a calibration file. You get that from Mini DSP. You give them the microphone serial number and they give you a calibration file. Now I actually thought you got a calibration file specific to your microphone. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like you just get a general one, but it is very complex. There's a lot of adjustments obviously to give the mic a more accurate reading. So that's all pretty simple. So you must have a calibration file in here. Obviously you just load it from load file as you would any file, and up here obviously we selected the UMIK1 from the different inputs. That's obviously important. Now the next stage is setting up your levels. Now input gain I set on 0. The actual output volume we need to adjust. Now what I set is, now on the actual preamp itself, sorry if I move the camera across, the preamp's obviously a Meridian 861. Now obviously it's hidden behind the TV, but that is always set on 80 for all the measurements. So if I quickly bring the display back on, the Meridian 861 hidden behind there is always set on 80 for these measurements. So we run tests, left speaker, left channel, right channel, and obviously we adjust left channel and sub, adjust the output volume until we get a nice reading. Now I normally put it around here between -12 and -6 dB. You'll find both channels measure pretty much exactly the same. So what that basically shows us is that obviously our output's working, but more importantly we're getting an input reading, i.e. the microphone's picking up sound. So this is all pretty self-explanatory. Obviously got left channel, right channel, on obviously tests here. Excuse me, there's a bug on the screen. I apologise for that. It's actually been extremely hot. It's been like 30 degrees today, and that's why I was wearing shorts, and that's why there's a bug on my screen. So excuse me. Right, no longer a bug, just a damaged dirty screen. Okay then, next page. Now this is the important part. This is where we start to pick our measurements. Now you can either pick, with this version of Dirac, I haven't got the full version, this is just the stereo version. With the full version you can set up like an auditorium measurement. We haven't got that option, don't need that option in here. You can either do a sofa, or to be honest I'll just do a listening chair, because there's one main seat for me, and a bigger area I would assume is a compromise. Now you know, if you're sitting there with a missus or with friends or whatever, then this might work better for you. But for me personally, I just like the one chair. Now what is actually interesting is when you run through the measurements, it makes sense to check and check again the different views it gives you. And it gives you those on purpose, because some of the measurements are right on the seat and some of the measurements are forward. So if we look at these measurements here, these are forward, and we look at these measurements here, these are against the seat. So basically it's giving you like a measurement area around the chair, and in the instructions it says to actually don't put all the measurements too tightly together, because Dirac Live will then filter too much. You want to give yourself a nice area. Now you don't just pick the area, obviously it tells you the measurement points, and obviously you put the microphone basically where it tells you, and it's just worth cross-referencing and making sure you take your time and do that bit correctly. There's no time limit. You literally get yourself ready and off you go. So the first one I think is the most important. So you need to make sure the first one is spot on in terms of being in the middle of the seat, being at the right distance, you know, the right height, ear height as well. So if we quickly put that back to that view, you know, it's right slap bang in the middle, obviously, of the listening position. So that's obviously what I've pre-done. I'm just going to check that, because, you know, best to check twice. You know, it's normally measure twice, cut once, but for this it's check twice, measure once. Okay then, so we're just about to run our first measurement, so be quiet, hold, make no noise. Okay then, first measurement taken, let's quickly check. So this measurement's going to be obviously back against the chair, obviously to the right hand side of the listening position. So obviously I'm going to move over, move the microphone and run the next measurement. Okay, this is the one I need to check because, see, we have to now move the microphone forward. So it's pretty much the same height, but in a little bit and forwards towards the front of the listening position. So we've moved the mic to that position. And shh. So if we look where we need to put it now, so it's the same at the front. Just the other side, move the mic. Run it again. Okay, easy enough. Back against the sofa or back against the chair. Obviously just below the listening position. Set, microphone's in place, run the measurement. Okay, so we can see this is now kind of above the normal listening position, obviously still to the left. difficult to see. You need to go through the different things, but look, obviously quite a bit above the chair now. So again, so we're taking measurements in an area around the listening position, not just the listening position itself. Set and measure. Same on the other side. Okay, last two is same height but forward. So again, we're above the listening position, kind of forward in the area, you know, more towards the front of the seat. So move the mic again. Last one. Okay, so we've run our 9 measurements. Now this is my horrific in-room frequency response. And if you look at that, it's horrific. Look, it's minus 20 decibels there at 200 hertz, and plus 13 decibels there at 30 hertz. So we've actually got a 30 decibels difference in the bass in this room at where I see it. Now it's absolutely horrendous. However, if you look through the mid-range and treble, the treble tapers off early. That's a little bit of how I've got the speakers towed out. It's a kind of a negative side effect of that, but it's very, very smooth. Mid-range and treble is, you know, extremely smooth. Now this is actually the magic, obviously, of Dirac and what Dirac does. So the first thing we want to do is save our measurements. So as you can see, these are products that I've, you know, reviewed before: Luxman M700, Arcam P49. So I'm going to save this as called SPM 1050 Mark II. So that's our measurements saved. So this is my pre-saved target curve. Now this is the magic of Dirac. Watch what it does. So hit optimize. Boom. Fixed. Now obviously it can't fix the massive null that I've got here. However, it kind of reduced it to from minus 20 to minus 10 decibels. It gives you some idea of what Dirac does in terms of range. But look how it's balanced out, all my mid-range and treble. Now I could tone my speakers in aggressively and bring this up naturally. However, having the speakers towed out gives me a very, very wide soundstage. In a narrow room, I really don't want to sacrifice that narrow soundstage. So, by having Dirac, I'm able to get the sound that I want, the actual frequency response that I want from the system, but I can still have the speakers towed out how I want them. So, if you look at how it was before in blue, how it is after in green, before it is in blue, how it is after in green. Now this is obviously an average across all the different measurements there. So it's an average across 9 measurements. So, but look how tight it gets it. Look at how tight it gets it. And that is how it was before. So if you look at the blue, get the mouse out of the way. If you look at the blue, you know, even with a lot of room treatment, even with a lot of time and effort, that is what I was getting, and that is unlistenable, really. If you look at that massive variation, it's not. I do have a bad room, but all rooms are bad. All rooms will have this kind of effect on your sound. So you know, you need to do something. I mean, in my eyes, you need to do something. Room treatment's where you start, and this is, to be fair, it's like the icing on the cake. So a quick look at the impulse response. So if we look at the impulse response before, if we zoom in, you can see where I kind of these speakers have like a negative impulse response. So it goes down before. I think that's to do with phase alignment. Then you can see all this here is all reflections. Now I've got a lot of treatment in here, hell of a lot, but all this here is all reflections, especially the early stuff. This is all kind of reflected sound. Now if we come back out and look at the Dirac corrected impulse response, you can see kind of how much kind of tighter and how much cleaner it kind of follows the line. And this is the important part here. So the initial impulse response now, boom, is fixed, and it tracks much better along the line. Now the ideal impulse response would go along, up and down, and then flat out. So we're miles from perfect. However, Dirac, I mean, these are KEF reference speakers. These are very high quality, good speakers, and yet we can see the impulse response I was getting. It's not actually that wonderful, really, when you think about it. So actually look at that for a second. So you've got the dip, the rise, another dip. Yep, look at that. Then we come out and we examine again. Zoom in close. So we've got the peak, the rise, and then we're back, both speakers back on the line. That is Dirac. That is obviously what it does. So basically, I have a set target. There's a set target curve. So if we go back to spectrum, this curve, take away that. This curve that you're seeing is the set target curve that I use for everything. This is my set target curve. So every amplifier that comes in here, or things that we test, are going to go through the Dirac Live measurement process, and they're all going to be set to this exact curve. Now, if you look at this exact curve, it means every amplifier's everything that we test is equal playing field. You know, so we're not fighting against terrible room conditions. We've actually got very good room acoustic conditions, but the frequency response was still poor. So now we've got excellent frequency response. One problem, but excellent frequency response, exactly how we want it. So every single piece of equipment that's tested in here is tested the same. And when we do recordings, if you look at the recordings in the channel, every single recording is set with Dirac like this. It's set with this frequency response, this rise here, from about 700 rising to 30 hertz here, at about 4 decibels, with a straight line kind of hard knee. That's called a hard knee house curve. So if we look at the Dirac stock curve, it's much leaner in the bass, and it rolls off a little bit earlier in the treble. So I haven't altered it much. If you look at obviously what the stock curve is, and the stock curve there is an orange. So it's leaner in the bass, and it kind of starts to roll off in the treble a little bit earlier. I personally prefer it a little bit more extension, a little bit more linear through the kind of upper mid range, and actually a bit more in the bass is what I prefer. A little bit more kind of low end out, but we're talking the difference between like kind of 2 decibels at 30 hertz. So it's kind of negligible, but personally that's my preference. So now what we do is, now once we've saved, we need to save our filter. So I need to actually put that back. So quickly put that back. to how it was. We're going to quickly run that again. Okay then, so we're going to save the filter. So obviously we save it as called saved. Shut that down. Next we load up our Dirac audio processor. Now this is where we choose certain things. The first thing we need to do, we need to load our set of measurements for, obviously, for chord. Now please excuse my poor language, that is just my idea of a joke. Right then, so this is something that's important. If we look, it will set ever so slight delay, etc. on the speaker. So it's set an ever so slight decibel difference, gain difference, look, ever so slightly different per speaker, and a slight delay. So I actually personally disable that and run it perfectly flat. To me, that sound always sounds best when I turn that off. So gain and delay, I actually disable. Now, this is an AV system. I've set the levels with software. I've used a software. I've used an SPL meter to set the levels per channel. So I mean the differences are minimal. However, the differences, even though they are minimal, like 0.1 milliseconds or 0.1 decibels, they actually can skew a nice full, in central image. I've had it before where they skew the image off to the left and the right. So I actually disable that, and then we've got a second set of options here, which is automatically start logging. You can change the gain. Now I personally leave the gain at minimum because it seems to sound best for me. But obviously that's the second set of options. So we are now pretty much ready to go.